Awesome.
It's like we're recording.
Yay. Well, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for meeting and chatting with me.
Yes, I love these type of things, and it's gloomy here in Michigan today, so I definitely need some of that external kind of motivation for today.
Right, right. Well, do
Well,
you want to start by just kind of introducing yourself and
yeah. My name's Alicia Johnson. I'm a licensed therapist based out of Michigan, and I also do some therapist consultation and coaching around burnout. What about you? You want to tell us a little bit about yourself as well?
yeah, so I'm Kristen Jacobsen. I use my maiden name for professionally, and I'm a therapist here in Chicago. Also licensed in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Florida, and really focus on working with clients who struggle with high functioning anxiety, perfectionism, some imposter syndrome, some burnout, similar to you. And then I'm also an adjunct professor of psychology.
So you stay busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know for folks. So we're talking about a bundle today, but we also knew each other prior to the bundle. We
Yeah.
do some chats about once a month because of our overlap in Michigan and our clients' overlap of just the anxiety, the burnout, that perfectionism stuff. And so I'm glad this bundle was another chance for our paths to overlap.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, do you want to try to explain what a burnout or bundle is?
Sure. I actually had to learn for myself because this is the first one I'm participating in. Alicia is more seasoned in that respect, but kind of how I would describe it is it's like a compilation of resources from over 60 experts. So there are a lot of therapists in the group. There's some physical therapists, some coaches. There's a resiliency expert. So really everyone sort of focuses on just well-being and sort of harmony and balance in life. And then there are all sorts of products in the bundle. So some courses, some workbooks, some journaling prompts, things like that. And so you're really getting such great value for such a low price with all
Yeah,
of these resources. So anything
for
you
sure.
kind of add to?
No, that's great. I don't think I've read all this fine details yet. I think it's like, yeah, 60 plus offers totaling over 5,000 and some dollars. So you're
Yeah.
getting all of these things from all these different people for one price.
Yeah.
So it's like this super wild sale deal on these things. And then you just get to kind of like shop around and pick which offers without having to pay extra or maybe things that you've been on the fence with before and we're like, well, I don't know if I want to spend like money on this offer. You basically get your money back if you get like 1 to 3 offers from this thing.
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah.
I think one of the people in our group chats described it as like a gift basket, where it's like you're
Okay.
paying one price, but you get all these different goodies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, oh, that's a nice way of explaining that.
And I think there's something for everyone in there too, it kind of is geared toward professionals who might be experiencing some high stress or having trouble managing or juggling everything. But I think there's literally at least one thing that anyone could benefit from in
I
that.
agree. Yeah, this bundle is called the Mindful Professional Bundle, and I think it's hosted by Dr. Morgan Levy, and she did this great job of just being intentional and mindful throughout this whole process. And so I think you're right. I think there's something where we can all relate to being stressed at some point, wanting to feel grounded, wanting to grow, to just do some inner work. And so there's all sorts of things from I think like meditation, like you said, journal prompts. And so all these different things coming together. I think it's super cool.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive in myself.
So yeah, it's my favorite. So part of that you said it's for a lot of folks, but your offer specifically is more towards one of your specialties of the high functioning anxiety, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So for those who don't know, what is high functioning anxiety, or what the heck do we look out for? Because
Right.
I'm sure I'm kind of guilty of that sometimes.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing. I think a lot of people who experience high functioning anxiety don't really know that that's what's going on. So
Mm,
these people are going to have a very different sort of outward persona than how they feel internally. So they're going to be viewed as being very outgoing and driven, helpful,
mm,
loyal, detail oriented, organized. Basically somebody who seems like they have it all together. They're really put together. They're kind of excelling professionally and just
mhm,
doing really well, but that's not being reflected internally. So there's going to be a lot of overthinking or perfectionism, seeking reassurance, or sort of seeking external validation
mm,
from like a boss or colleagues. A lot of people pleasing, a hard time setting boundaries and saying no to things, some negative self-talk, or like being highly
mm,
critical of yourself, expecting like some worst case scenario type of outcomes. So I think it's important to note that this is not sort of a clinical diagnosis
mm,
and more of a condition, right?
mhm.
So a lot of, because these people are they're sort of overperforming, they're over functioning, that it's often really rewarded in our society,
Mm.
you
That's a
know?
good way of putting it. Yeah, I think especially, I don't know if we've had these conversations before, but so much of therapy is less about like these traditional diagnoses
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like all that stuff. And it's like you can be doing well at your job, you can
Mhm.
be social, you can do these things and still struggle with some things. And it's okay, or becoming more okay, to ask for help and to let that in, even if it's in therapy where you have an hour a week to let those walls down and kind of be a little bit more vulnerable.
Yeah, right. And just to slow down and like spend that time to be self-reflective, because I think if
Mhm.
we're constantly in this state of doing, we're not even really like checking in with
Yeah.
how we're doing, how we're feeling,
Yeah.
what's going on for us. So
Yeah.
and I know a lot of times high functioning anxiety can lead to burnout, which is your specialty. So you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah. And feel free to chime in as well, because I know some of your clients and overlaps there. But I often describe burnout as exhaustion to every level of physical exhaustion, mental exhaustion, emotional exhaustion. And so I think a lot of times it's we go, 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 and we minimize to try to survive, or we are stuck in these systems until it's just like we get hit our limit and we are just so exhausted. Everything feels drained. It's hard to have motivation to do the things we like to do. It's a lot of hopelessness, helplessness. A lot of times it's these big systems that are interacting, kind of keeping us in these places. So a lot of stuck feelings that then impact our moods, our behaviors, our boundaries, our ability to take time for ourselves, our ability to ask for help. All of those things can be impacted by that deep sense of burnout.
Mhm. Most definitely. And I think it's becoming more and more common.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's just the language for it. I think I'm a very like societal structural narrative person, and so I
Yeah,
think there's been a shift of we're kind of allowed to have needs in our workplaces and in
yeah.
our lives, and it's more accepted to like have hobbies and interest and not hustle all the time. And while that's amazing, it also comes with a shift. And it's like, oh, well, I learned these one things and now I'm torn between maybe generational values or
Yeah.
work values and my values. And so it's a lot of deep reflection and things that take a lot of that mental effort, which can be really hard when we're stressed and burned out.
Mhm. Right. And I think it's important too, just for employers and just companies at a more global level, to recognize that, the if you have a bunch of burned out employees, the company culture and the morale is going to plummet, and so it really is in their best interest to help facilitate.
I'm like, it doesn't seem like that hard of a solution.
I
It seems so
know.
obvious. And every time I hear someone be like, oh, they're not doing this, or oh, companies still expect this, I'm like, how do you not put two and two together? That like it's actually a win-win. Like if you
Yeah.
have happy, healthy employees, they're gonna want to stay. They're gonna
Mhm.
want to do good work, especially I imagine like the high functioning anxiety folks where it's like they
Yeah.
like doing the work, especially if they're passionate and driven about it.
Yeah.
But if a system, continuously pushes them down or is against them, we all have our limits of how much we can handle.
Absolutely. Right.
So how else do you see burnout and high functioning anxiety relating? Because I think there's a ton of overlap there.
Yeah, I think it's just when someone has been sort of living with this high functioning anxiety for so long. I mean, we're talking years or maybe a lifetime, right? And they don't think it's quote unquote bad enough to like
Mm.
get help with it, or to try to understand where it's coming from, or kind of how to cope with it, then that will inevitably just kind of create this snowball effect that will often lead to burnout, because
Oh, for
it's
sure.
not sustainable to function in that way.
For sure. And I loved how earlier you mentioned like it's almost like a mask or these like invisible features of it because with the high anxiety or high functioning anxiety folks it's like they're turning their work in on time,
Yeah.
they're maintaining their house, sometimes they're attending social events, so like it doesn't look this traditional way of oh you must be struggling. And so I
Right.
think it just shows that all of these stressors, burnout and anxiety included, it's not always matching what we see on the outside.
Mhm.
And even with that exhaustion, I think a lot of people push through and minimize just to survive and to keep
Mhm.
things up because we also have to deal with it. Like if we acknowledge, hey, I'm struggling, we have to often deal with those emotions and those
Yeah,
thoughts and make those decisions. And sometimes we don't have the energy to do that.
absolutely. Yeah. And so keeping this cycle going can be a way of like coping or a form of
Mhm.
avoidance of
Yeah.
not wanting to really kind of figure out what's going on.
For sure. And so I think this bundle does a great job of not just with, I mean, I think there's a few burnout related ones, a few anxiety related ones, some mindfulness ones. I haven't even looked at the full list just because like there's so many good things and I've tried to like
Yeah.
jot down ones that I want to do already. But how do you think your offer is going to be helpful? Or can you explain what it is and maybe how it helps with the high functioning anxiety?
Yeah, so I contributed a high functioning anxiety workbook. And so there are like 8 practical exercises that people can do. So some of it focuses on addressing our thinking patterns and some unhelpful thoughts that we might not be fully aware of that contribute to a lot of these behaviors. There's also a section on how to set boundaries. There's a section on, or an exercise rather, on sort of self-criticism and self-compassion. There are some mindfulness and gratitude and relaxation techniques in there. And then finally, there's an exercise that addresses procrastination, which is really common as a kind of a form of avoidance.
Wow. I love how you said like these tangible things because I feel like, especially with the high functioning anxiety folks, a lot of them like to do something. Like
Yeah.
they're goal oriented, like forward moving humans. And so if like you give them something to work on, they're going to want to do it.
Mhm.
And these tangible and how these different areas can really impact got like these mental aspects, these emotional aspects, and boundaries. I think that sounds super cool. I'm excited to dive into that one.
Thanks. Yeah, I think people hopefully will find it helpful and give them a little bit of insight. And I want to hear about your offer as well.
Yeah, I'm doing a course called Feeling the Burnout. It's about 45 minutes of pre recorded stuff, and it's broken up into nice little chunks just because, again, being mindful of people who are burned out and stressed, time, like, no one's gonna want to sit through like all that time in one
Yeah.
chunk. And so it's broken up into like little mini things, as well as tangible exercises. So there's some things about finding things that we can have control over to help with some of that helplessness and stuckness. There's some early signs to look out for to kind of get in tune with some of the body sensations and what's going on for them, helping them become the expert of their body and experiences. Some self-care exercises and how to overcome some of those barriers, just because we can't always self-care our way out of burnout, but it is a great tool that can help build a solid foundation to tackle some of those really big things.
Mhm.
And I think some like checklists and stuff I threw in there for extras. So I really, yeah, I really like it. I think it's a helpful. I tried to like baby step it, and I didn't want to overwhelm folks with so much because I
Yeah.
could honestly probably talk about this for hours. And I'm like, no, no, no,
Yeah.
Alicia, people have things to do. They just like give them the important stuff.
Yeah. And then I think that's nice because then people can kind of get a sense of our work and what we do. And then if they want more, you know, we have other resources or could work with people individually or whatever if they feel like they kind of need to take it to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So for the folks watching this, if they've made it this far, we thank you. But if they're still on the fence of like, okay, this sounds kind of cool, like I don't know if it's for me, who would you say that either your offer or this bundle could benefit?
yeah, I think people who feel like they've sort of reached most of the goals that they've sort of set out to accomplish and they're still not feeling content or happy. So I think we often engage in this like future casting where it's like, well, once I get that promotion, then I'll be good. Or once I get married, or you know, once I get that new job, or once I buy a house, whatever that big sort of milestone is, and then we sort of get there and we're left feeling disappointed. And so we've kind of done everything we're supposed to according
Mm,
to society, right? But something just isn't resonating internally. And so you know, people who are professionals, who are driven, who are sort of high achievers, but they're not feeling that the results of what they've worked so hard for.
yeah. I want to copy your answer. That is like, yes, I want like Morgan to see that too. And like, that's going to be the like response for, is this bundle for you? Just like all of that. I think, yeah, my answer was, as I was thinking about it, just people who give a lot too. Cause I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of times in this high functioning anxiety and when we are working really hard and people pleasing and even in burnout is we give so much to our families, our jobs, our friends,
Mhm.
and we like that and it fills
Yeah.
our cup up, but we have a really hard time filling our own cup back up. So it
Right.
ends up being empty, and we feel guilty then if we take some time for ourselves, or we feel like we don't have time for ourselves because we're so busy.
Mhm.
So I think this bundle can be really helpful because a lot of them were intentional about here's some quick things you can do, here's some inner work you can do. And just being able to take that time without feeling guilty, fill your cup up so you can keep doing all these amazing things. Like we're not trying to hold you back from doing these amazing things. We just want to make sure you don't crash and burn before you
Right.
get to do it.
Right. And I think we often approach things backwards where it's like we prioritize all the sort of goal oriented work related stuff and then fit our lives around that versus sort of creating the life we want and
Mhm.
figuring out how work kind of fits in around that. And then it can be done. Like this is not
Yeah.
um unreachable type of goal for people.
Yes, I like that, especially for like the folks I'm thinking of my clients who are in this like helpless, hopeless state to
Mhm.
hear that it's like, it seems maybe really big and scary, but people have been so thoughtful with making these tangible, sometimes even small but impactful steps.
Yeah.
And once you're kind of on that path, it's like, wow, this is actually attainable.
Mhm.
And like, it feels nice. It can be weird at first, but it's like, it ends up being like really nice.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of it just kind of comes back to those small changes in habits, right? You're not like overhauling your lifestyle all at one time. It's like, all right, how can we take baby steps incrementally to make things better?
I love it. I love it. Let's see. I think, oh, so as we're talking about the bundle and the audience, are there other offers you think people with high functioning anxiety could really benefit from?
Yeah, I actually I jotted down, well, a bunch. I feel like now I have to kind of just mention
Great.
the
And
highlights.
there are so many, like,
I
and this isn't
know,
even like me trying
crazy.
to like be like a grimy salesperson. Like, that's an
Right.
incredible list. I'm gonna have
Right.
to
And
rein
even
myself
if
in.
people don't use our courses, I mean, they will get something out of it. Um, so let's see, things that would relate to sort of my clients. There's one called How to Stop Overthinking Everything, Unsubscribing from Perfectionism. Um, let's see, The Imposter Cleanse, Silencing Your Inner Critic, the Interactive People Pleasing Guided Journal, How to Calm Your Inner Critic. I mean, there are just so
So
many,
many.
so many.
Oh my gosh.
How about you? Any that kind of stuck out that would be sort of related to the folks with who are experiencing burnout?
I definitely didn't do as like intensive as a list of that. So sorry, burnout folks. I'll like
No,
comment in the
I did it right before we hopped on this call. I was
oh
like,
my gosh. I'll comment whenever we post the video of like the exhaustive list. But I like really resonated with two of them. Because again, I think I'm trying to put myself when I was burnt out.
yeah,
What do I have time for? And so I tried to be intentional with not overwhelming folk, but there are genuinely so many good things. But two stood out and I wanted to get the names correct, so I wrote them down. So one is called Balancing the Load, a how-to guide for busy couples. This
nice.
blew my mind. I was like, yes, because so much of I think my counseling is very individual focused. A lot of coaching tends to be individual focused. And to have a guide for busy couples, I was just like, of course, like this was so needed. And I think especially I work with a lot of women who have take on the mental load and are just exhausted to have this guide for couples to connect and to share these feelings and to overcome the stress and burnout together. I was like, oh my
That's
gosh,
awesome. Yeah,
I'm so jazzed for that.
yeah,
And then the other one that really stood out was nature in the workplace. It's a workshop. Nature's been a huge part of me overcoming burnout and just like, especially I work at home. So, like, literally getting out of my four walls
yeah.
is
Mhm.
so much of a game changer. And just body movement in that. And so I think that one, a lot of my folks also can resonate with like, oh yeah, I can go like for a little walk outside or go sit outside and just look at the trees that will eventually bloom. I think spring is coming. So those two I think would be really intentional and helpful for a lot of folks dealing with burnout.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, those sound like great resources. Yeah,
Really, there's so many good ones.
yeah.
And so let's see, I'm trying to think of for folks who have made it this long, we've tried to introduce what a bundle is. Do you think there's other like questions people may have about bundles if they've never done one before?
Potentially. I mean, they could just comment on this video post and we can get back to people if there's something specific um that they have a question about. But I think if they go to this waitlist page or the sales page
Mm,
that will kind of describe it. And then we have the premiere party. Is it next Tuesday?
yes.
Okay, so that's at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, I believe.
I trust you. I didn't write that in my planner yet, so that's what I'm gonna do when we hang up.
So that will really kind of go into who the contributors are, and you'll kind of get to know people, I think, on a more individualized basis, and that would be a good place to bring questions to.
I agree. I think, yeah, Morgan has really, I'm probably gonna sound like a broken record, has been very mindful and intentional about the way she's worded things, trying to answer questions, make things very clear. You know, she's corrected things as things have evolved. So once that page gets up, I think most of like the big questions will be answered. There's a premiere party that you mentioned, and then I believe there's also like sign up parties. So like more of the logistics of it. If you're like, I've never done a bundle, how do you sign up for things?
Mhm.
She's hosting, I believe, 4 of them
Oh,
where you can go to those. She, I think, either like shares her screen or can walk you through it, and it's like a great tool if it's to help not get overwhelmed by all of it. So
yeah,
it is a good group of like the customer service, I think, is going to be really helpful.
that's great. Yeah. Yeah, because there are a lot of offers, so it can get overwhelming, but and then it officially opens on the 12th, right?
I should really have all this written down.
I
Yes, the
know.
12th to 18th. I'm normally more
Okay.
organized. So yeah, 12th to 18th. So that's a good question is like you have the cart to buy the one price of the bundle from the 12th to the 18th, but
Mhm.
then I believe you have, this is where I don't have my details exactly. You typically have like a month or something to
Yeah,
sign
like
up
60
for
minutes.
offers. So if that week is really busy, all you have to do that first week is just buy the initial price. I think it's like $97 or something. And then
Mhm.
you have a month where, depending on your schedule, depending on how you want to break it up, you can look through the offers, enroll in them, download them. So
Mhm.
it's not like by April 18th, you have to have all of these
Yeah.
things sorted out. Like, no, 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 that's very overwhelming.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited for it. I'm glad that our paths have crossed on this. I think our offers will go really well together,
I
and
agree.
really all of them. Like, I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but anything else you want to share? We want to be mindful of other people's time as well.
Right.
So while we probably could talk for hours, but we
Right.
won't.
Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. And yeah, if there are any other questions, feel free to reach out on social media or, email us directly. Our emails are in our social media accounts, I'm sure. And we're happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. All right, take care.
All right, thanks, Alicia. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.